Howdy again, it's Tubalcain, and this is episode number 21 of my This and That series, and I haven't made one of these in quite a while, but I have a lot of things to show you in this particular episode here, and I'm going to start by talking about these Vaughan hammers again. I had just released my video entitled Tubalcain Takes a Road Trip to the Hammer Factory. Make sure that you watch that. I think you're going to like it. And I had a wonderful visit down there in Bushnell with a man who showed us around the factory, and he wishes to remain anonymous, so I'm not going to mention his name, but thank you to him if he is watching this video. But at the end of the tour, they have a factory store there with factory seconds, so I picked up a couple of these soft-faced hammers. Notice there's no labels on these, so there was some defect. I don't know what it is, because they look okay to me. I can use small ball-peen hammers, and I got a camping hatchet for my grandson, and it all started when Vaughan sent me this, which I showed you in another video. And I saw the machine that does the engraving while I'm down there. That's also shown on that video. And I've used the Vaughan hammers for quite a while. Here's some that are, you can see, well used, and they really make a quality product. Please buy one. Also, if I can ask you people at this time, it would be very helpful to me as a YouTube creator if from time to time you would click on a commercial that's on YouTube and watch the whole thing, or go get a cup of coffee while it's on or something. But the few pennies that they throw at me helps me with some of the expenses, and I think you can understand that some of these expenses are considerable. Now what I'm going to show you ties in with the Bushnell trip, and also you're going to see a video in the near future, a two-part video on my visit to the powerhouse there, and you're really going to like that. And Keith, who originally got a hold of me, and invited me down there to both the power plant and the hammer factory. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself. I got this box in the mail, and there's absolutely no return address on it other than it says Bushnell and the hardware store there, which is, now I found out that's just how they ship their packages. But when I open that up, inside were two packages of my favorite potato chip, and they're called kitchen cooked, and they're made down there in Bushnell. But I had no idea who sent them to me, and also in here a cap, winter weight, kitchen cooked. And these are the best chips on the market. It's so much better than the mass marketed ones, oversalted ones that are in a yellow package, which have crowded out all the small companies. But anyway, when I talked to Keith, he said, "I think I know who sent those to you." I said, "You do?" Well, we were in his car, and he said, "We'll take a run over there." So here I am on a surprise visit to the kitchen cooked factory with Mary, who then gave me another cap there. And they weren't cooking that day, but she took us around the factory a little bit. And I'm not going to show you where they made the chips, because I don't think that we're privy to putting that on YouTube. But it was a sparkling clean stainless steel kitchen where they make these, and she gave me a couple more bags. I had my friends with me, and so that was nice to meet Mary, and I believe Mary and her husband own the company, so that's where that surprise package came from. Thank you, Mary, and to your husband, and I've forgotten his name. And next I got a small package out of the clear blue sky from Randy Richards of Randy Richard in the Shop. You might have seen some of his videos, and he sent me several of these little keychain deals. Randy Richard RR in the Shop. And then I think that he has a video, well, I know he has a video where he makes these scribers. So he sent me one of them. It's all brass with a hardened point on it. Thank you, Randy, for this. And Randy also makes, or made, some of these dovetail cutters, and he shows that in one of his videos. And it's made with a triangular insert, which of course then is going to be 60 degrees, or should I say 30. And you'll see me using this later on, and he's got this engraved here too. I don't think it's going to show up. Where I intend to do some more dovetail work this winter, and you should see some videos of this in use. And thank you, Randy, ever so much. I've talked an awful lot over the years about this South Bend How to Run a Lathe book, and you can get this on Google, but it's not this edition, and it's that's Google Books I'm talking about now. It's a much older edition, but if you want this edition here, which is edition 55, 1958, and that's the one I used when I was in high school. It was, I think we paid $1/4 for it. We had to buy it. But he gave me the link, and there is the link for you to get the PDF file of that. So pause your video if you want to, 1958, yeah. Pause your video and write that down if you're interested in downloading that onto your computer. You could, of course, print it out, but it would take an awful lot of paper. It's probably not something you're going to do. But there's your chance to get this book at no cost. Robert Burns, Bob Burns, sent me this little box or envelope with 2 boring bars that he had ground, and he had watched my video on vertical shear tools and deduced that he could make boring bars with the same principle. So these are ground such that we can do vertical shear type of boring with them. Now, I haven't used them yet, but I plan on it. And then he sent me a little letter here with some directions and so on, what the top and what the bottom is, because it's kind of hard to figure out. So I plan on experimenting with these later in the winter, so thank you, Bob, ever so much. Just the other day I received a package from the Lock and Lube company, and they had given me an email saying they were going to send this to me. And the Lock and Lube, and thank you very much, by the way, Lock and Lube grease coupler. Now, you know what a nightmare it is to grease your car. Not that most modern cars have many grease fittings anymore, but I certainly do on my tractors. But you remember how the grease gun would pop off the zerks and how annoying that was? And it was particularly hard when you were doing that upper ball joint on General Motors cars, and then the grease just went all over the place. You thought you were pumping it into the fitting, but you weren't. You're just making a big mess. But this will lock onto the zerk, and it came with some it said extra seals, whatever that is. I haven't opened that up, and I won't until it's needed, but this will go right onto the end of a grease gun. That's an 1/8 inch pipe thread. So let me grab some zerks here and show you how this works. Well, luckily I got a half a drawer full of zerks, including an assortment, plus tons of them out in the garage. I'm in the basement right now. But here's how this works, and it'll be easier to hang on to once it's fastened onto the end of the grease gun. But notice how this, by squeezing the handle here, these little jaws come out, and then goes right onto the zerk. Then you would proceed to pump, and it'll work on all types of grease guns. And it said English or metric. And pump to your heart's content, rather. And when you're done, just push down and she'll drop off. Pretty slick, huh? And it says grease goes in, not on the machine. End your greasing frustration wheel. And there's some instructions there on the back, and they've got a website, so go there or look up Lock and Lube, or maybe these will be on store shelves. I'm not sure, because there's the hook to hang it. Maybe AutoZone has this, but get yourself one of those. I can't wait to grease my tractors. Thank you, Lock and Lube. Let me continue just a little bit on Lock and Lube. I just realized that this opens, and then there's the instructions, the user's guide, and there is their website, www. As you know, I go to a lot of auctions, so I was just there yesterday and I picked up this I'm calling it a Kennedy box, but it says Craftsman on there. But from the looks of the handles, you know, it might have been made by Kennedy, or it could be Waterloo. I don't really know. I guess it doesn't matter. And I did pay $50 for this, and there's nothing in it worth a darn. But there were a few things in it. But yeah, those little handles there make me think that it's Kennedy, and they're rough finish there. I like that. I really don't have room for that. Now, there was no key, but the key, now that I look back, I bid on the lower unit too that rolls around, and I got outbid. It wasn't in very good shape, and I saw keys in that lock, more than 2 keys, so I bet the keys for this one were in there, but who cares. The man's name is on there. He passed away. I'll go through a few things here, but there's not a whole lot to show you, other than this came from a man that worked at Caterpillar down in Pontiac, and I had worked there for a year, and I'm going to make sure I don't show any names here, but here's a purchase order requisition for a Kennedy box, but yet it says 7-drawer Kennedy box, and this is payroll deduction at Caterpillar, but that was $304, but I'm not sure it's for this box because this says Craftsman on it. But all right, be that as it may, let's take a look at what's in the top and then the drawers real quick. There's a nice file card. Looks like it's brand new. And some hammers. I don't like these now because they're not Vaughan, although that is a Stanley claw hammer. I got too many. That doesn't look like much. There's a nice spanner, and it is a Williams. Got the name engraved all over it. A couple of pliers here, not too good. Import. That doesn't look like much. There's a plumber's tool. I think most of the machinist tools were taken out of here, and there's a book that I received also when I worked at Caterpillar. Everybody was given one of these. Well, that's a mason's tool. And you know, there's a drill drift, and that thing's over the hill. So apparently he got a new one, but didn't throw the old one away. You wonder why you would keep something like that, don't you? By the way, when I was at the Vaughan plant, they were making these, and they could not make them fast enough. They made them for Home Depot or something, and 3 of them sold in a little kit for a reasonable price. 3 different sizes. I think there's one even smaller than this, but that could be a Vaughan, because you know they make these under all different kinds of labels. There's a nice scratch all. It looks like a Dasco, but it says Power Mechanics on it. And that looks homemade. Putty knife, earplugs, that's about it. Alright, let's go through the drawers. Bunch of nice cap screws in there and some other hardware, and it looks like a complete set of easy outs, including the small one, which is normally broken, but nothing special there. There's some Allen wrenches and some Caterpillar stuff. There's a key, but it doesn't fit this. I tried it. And the last calendar is from 1993, so this has been around for a while. Over on this side, nothing there except some little cap screws. And some hones, a crayon, pens, chapstick. Ooh, geez, threw that away real fast. I don't know what that is. Nothing in that drawer except a homemade wrench. And nothing here. That's a piece of tungsten carbide. You can always tell by the weight. And he must go back to when they still use these punch cards, because they sure didn't use those when I was at Caterpillar. So that's really old technology. But what is interesting in this bottom drawer, when I worked at Fuel Systems there in Pontiac, they made fuel injectors for Ford Power Stroke and Isuzu and all of their own equipment, so on. But I recognized this nozzle, and I watched them put the tiny little holes, I think I've talked about this before, you can't even see them, but they're tiny little holes for the diesel fuel to get injected out of this tip. And most everything we did at that plant was with grinders. Small pieces. You didn't even need safety shoes, unless you dropped a whole basket of these on your toe. But that was the size of most of the parts that we worked on. So it was interesting to see that in this, and I never met this man. I know his name, I'm not going to repeat it. And a brand new 11/30 seconds, 9/30 seconds bit. Now, I'm over in my other Kennedy box, and you've seen this in the toolbox tour now, but the only reason I came over here is I had a laugh. I told you that I recognized this, and in my own drawer was just a few pieces left from when I worked there, and there it is, the nozzle, but they're different lengths. So this would have been two different fuel injectors. And there are some other parts. I must have made 1 million of those. Internal and external grinding. Oh, how I didn't like that. And there's some other part, I don't remember what that was, but these are all out of fuel injectors. A little defects in some of these, I guess. Oh, enough on that. Sorry. At the same auction, and this belonged to the same man as the toolbox, but this was in a separate tray. I paid $52 for this tray, and it's really way too much, but here's what I was after, was this Mitutoyo micrometer, but I also ended up with this Helios, and I don't know why the name Helios and Fowler are on the same pouch, but it's a dial caliper, but now I realize it's in metric, so you know, and it is old enough to where it's Germany, whereas I think, and Helios, if you're not familiar with it, is a major player, or was, but it's metric. But that's not what I was after. What I was after was this Digimetric micrometer, but I was buying a pig in the poke because it did not work. And I think, but these are pretty expensive. There's the original instructions, and of all things, here is the job ticket from the tool crib there, and he had to buy this. I crossed his name off, and he paid in 1998, he paid $112, plus he had to pay tax, and his ID number and everything is on there, so this was taken off of payroll deduction, so he had to buy that. So they must cost about $150. I'm sure somebody will tell me what they cost now, but it was interesting to see that documentation. So, came home, put a new battery in, and I had a whole sleeve of batteries because they fit, where are they at here? These also fit the Mitutoyo dial caliper, so I had 10 of them here. Put one in and it fired right up, and I was really happy because I thought, yeah, I'll just have to throw it away if it doesn't work. So you'll see this in future videos. And as far as I understand here, this has automatic shut off, and then all you have to do is hit it, and I think I bumped it a little bit when I opened it, that's why it was on. I don't know what the delay is, but it looks to be in perfect condition. Even tells the battery number where you can find it. I never did have an electronic one, and I wasn't too keen on them because I think they're probably pretty delicate, but I'm glad to have this, and I did pay way too much for it, but I guess I'm glad I did now that it works. And there's a piece of plastic, and I hope that is Delron, but I don't really know, and some abrasives in here. And then that's all that was in that box. And this video is running way too long, so I'm not going to show some other things that I still have to do. And if you've sent me stuff, you're gonna have to wait for the next edition of this and that. And this was number 21, and I thank you so much for watching. Please tell your friends. I'm trying to get some new subscribers and increase my viewership here just a little bit. So I'll see you in the next video.